They gave me the room next to the industrial laundry, room 108, a closet masquerading as a guest suite, vibrating with the relentless scream of commercial washing machines. It was the ultimate insult for the annual family reunion, a calculated move to remind me of my place at the bottom of our bloodline. They thought they were locking the family failure in a cage. What they did not know was that I owned the cage. I owned the walls, the luxurious suites they slept in, and the very ground they walked on. My name is Elena. I am 32 years old, and for my entire life, I have been the ghost of the Vanguard family. The Vanguard legacy is built on quiet luxury and loud deception. My mother, Victoria, is a master of gaslighting. My perfect older sister, Chloe, is her prized possession, and Chloe's husband, Marcus, is a ruthless real estate vulture masquerading as an elite investor. For 32 years, I was the designated disappointment, the quiet girl who sat in the corner, absorbing their passive-aggressive remarks and disguised insults. They thought I was struggling to pay rent with a dying freelance gig. They had no idea I was the founder of a cybersecurity firm valued at $50 million. I hunt digital ghosts for a living. I dismantle corrupt corporate networks. But my greatest project was about to be my own family. 6 months ago, my grandfather Arthur passed away. He was the only one who saw through the family's polished venom. He knew Victoria and Marcus were circling his prized possession like vultures, the Sterling Hotel, a historic 5-star sanctuary on the coast. Before he died, he secretly transferred the entire estate into an irrevocable trust, with me as the sole beneficiary. I arrived at the grand lobby of the Sterling on a Friday afternoon. The crystal chandeliers caught the sunlight, casting rainbows across the imported marble floor. I stood by the entrance, watching my family hold court. Victoria was sipping champagne, laughing at a joke Marcus made. Chloe was adjusting her designer sunglasses, looking utterly bored. No one noticed me until Victoria turned her head. Her smile instantly dropped. The familiar look of sheer disappointment washed over her perfect face. She walked over, her heels clicking aggressively against the marble. She did not hug me. She never does. Instead, she looked at my simple black dress and sighed. She asked how my little computer repair business was doing. I smiled. A cold, our practiced smile. I told her I was getting by. Marcus chimed in, adjusting his tailored suit. He offered to lend me a few $100s for a decent meal this weekend. The pity in his voice was thick, almost suffocating. I thanked him politely. I did not tell him that my watch cost more than his entire stock portfolio. I let them feel superior. That is the first rule of the hunt. You let the prey think they are the predator. When the general manager handed out the room keys, the humiliation was perfectly orchestrated. Chloe and Marcus received the penthouse. Victoria got the executive suite, and I received room 108, the basement level, next to the laundry. The manager looked at me, his eyes wide with hidden panic. He knew exactly who I was. I was his boss, but I had strictly ordered the staff to maintain my anonymity. I gave him a subtle nod. I took the key. I could feel my family smirking behind my back. They thought this was a victory. They thought they had successfully put me in my place. If you have ever been the black sheep of your family, if you have ever been told you are not enough by the people who are supposed to protect you, hit the subscribe button right now, because I am about to show you exactly how to rewrite your story. I walked into room 108. The noise from the washing machines was deafening. The air smelled like heavy bleach and damp towels. I locked the door, sat on the twin bed, and opened my laptop. I did not come here to suffer. I came here to perform a tactical demolition. With a few keystrokes, I bypassed the hotel's primary firewall. As a cybersecurity expert, hacking my own network was child's play. I accessed the internal security cameras, the audio feeds, the digital logs. I had eyes and ears in every hallway, every VIP lounge, and every suite. I watched Chloe and Marcus enter the penthouse. I activated the audio feed. Marcus poured a drink, his voice echoing in the luxurious room. He was furious. He was pacing the floor, telling Chloe that the hotel's previous owner, my grandfather, had humiliated him. But then Marcus said something that made my blood run cold. He laughed, a dark, sinister sound. He told Chloe that it did not matter anymore. He said he had already paid off the city inspector to fail the Sterling structural integrity test on Monday. A failed test meant the hotel would be shut down. The value would plummet overnight, and Marcus had a shell company ready to buy the property for pennies on the dollar by Friday. My own brother-in-law was going to destroy my grandfather's legacy just to feed his ego, and my sister was laughing along with him. They thought the hotel belonged to some faceless corporate entity. They thought they had the perfect crime lined up. I closed my laptop. The vibrations from the washing machines pulsed through the floorboards, matching the slow, steady rhythm of my heartbeat. I picked up my phone and dialed my lead corporate attorney. I told him to draft 3 specific documents. The mice were confidently marching through the maze, completely unaware that I held the blueprints. They wanted to play dirty with real estate and corporate sabotage. Fine, but tomorrow night is the grand family dinner, and I'm going to serve them a dish they will never forget. The relentless hum of the commercial washing machines finally stopped at exactly 6 in the morning. I did not sleep. While my family rested on 1,000 thread count Egyptian cotton in the penthouse, I was hunting. I spent the night tracing the digital footprint of Marcus and his ridiculous shell company. He called it Apex Holdings. Arrogant men always choose names that project dominance, compensating for their own profound insecurities. He was incredibly sloppy. He used the same password for his offshore bank accounts that he used for his golf club membership. Within 3 hours, I had complete access to his financial reality. Marcus was not a real estate titan. He was drowning in debt. He owed $7 million to private lenders in New York. The Sterling Hotel was his desperate lifeline. He needed to crash its value, buy it cheap, and flip it to an international conglomerate just to avoid having his legs broken by his creditors. I closed my laptop. A cold, satisfied smile touched my lips. Knowledge is not just power. In the right hands, knowledge is a weapon of mass destruction. I walked into the sunlit dining room at 9. I wore a simple beige cashmere sweater and tailored trousers. Quiet luxury, no logos. My family was already holding court at the center table, surrounded by silver platters of imported caviar, fresh oysters, and crystal pitchers of mimosas. Victoria looked at me over the rim of her glass. Her eyes scanned my outfit, immediately dismissing it. "Elena, darling," she cooed, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "Did the noise keep you up? You have terrible dark circles. You really should invest in a better concealer." I pulled out my own chair and sat down. I ordered a plain black coffee. Chloe laughed softly, adjusting her diamond tennis bracelet. "Oh, leave her alone, mother. Graphic design is stressful." "Right, Elena. Drawing logos all day must be exhausting." "It has its challenges," I replied smoothly. Marcus leaned back, swirling his champagne. "You know, Elena, I have an assistant opening at my firm. It pays $40,000 a year. It is better than scraping by on freelance gigs. You could finally afford a decent apartment instead of that shoebox you rent." The sheer audacity of his pity was intoxicating. I looked directly into his eyes. "Thank you, Marcus. But I think my current ventures will pay off very soon." I noted that his left hand was trembling slightly, like the hand holding the champagne. He was terrified of his creditors. He was projecting his financial anxiety onto me to feel a fleeting sense of superiority. It was textbook psychology. I let him have his moment. At 2 in the afternoon, I walked to the hotel spa. I had booked a basic Swedish massage under my name. It was a minor luxury, just to ease the tension in my shoulders. When I approached the marble reception desk, the manager looked panicked. "Miss Vanguard." "I'm so sorry," the receptionist stammered, avoiding my gaze. "Your mother, Victoria, requested a last-minute hot stone therapy session. She demanded we use your time slot. She said you would not mind." I stood in the serene, eucalyptus-scented lobby. My own mother had stolen a basic appointment just to remind me that my time, my comfort, meant absolutely nothing compared to her sudden whims. She needed to establish dominance in every micro-interaction. The receptionist looked terrified, knowing I owned the building. She was waiting for me to scream, to fire someone, to demand my spot back. "It is perfectly fine," I said softly. "Let my mother enjoy her hot stones. Please, make sure she gets the absolute best service." I turned around and walked back to room 108. Let Victoria relax, let her muscles melt. Because while she was face down on a massage table, I was remotely accessing her personal cloud storage. She had zero digital hygiene. I downloaded 3 years of her deleted text messages. Messages she sent to my grandfather before he died. Messages where she systematically lied about me, calling me unstable, calling me a failure, begging him to cut me out of the will and leave everything to Chloe. She had tried to bury me alive. She just did not realize I was a seed. It was 6 in the evening, 2 hours until the grand family gala dinner, the centerpiece of the reunion. My corporate attorney, Richard, sent a secure encrypted file to my phone. 3 documents were ready for printing. Document 1, the irrevocable trust, signed and notarized, proving my absolute ownership of the Sterling Hotel and its surrounding estate. Document 2, a forensic accounting report detailing Marcus and his impending bankruptcy, complete with records of his bribe to the city inspector. Document 3, a draft for a civil lawsuit against Victoria for defamation, fraud, and attempted elder financial abuse. I printed the documents using my portable secure printer. The crisp white pages felt heavy in my hands, the weight of justice, the weight of 32 years of silence finally finding its voice. I stood in front of the small, cracked mirror in the bathroom of room 108. I unzipped my garment bag. I took out a blood-red silk dress. It was a vintage piece, acquired from a private auction in Paris. It commanded attention. It screamed power. I applied a dark crimson lipstick. I slipped a silver flash drive into my clutch purse, right next to the 3 folded documents. And tonight, Victoria had reserved the private dining room overlooking the ocean. Just the 4 of us. They were preparing to drink expensive wine and spend 2 hours mocking my life choices. They thought they were walking into a celebration of their own perfection. They had no idea they were walking directly into an execution. I turned the handle of my door and stepped out into the hallway. The game was over. The slaughter was about to begin. I pushed open the heavy oak doors of the obsidian room. The private dining area was located on the top floor, featuring floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the dark, crashing waves of the Pacific Ocean. The table was set with sterling silver, fine crystal, and black orchids. Victoria, Chloe, and Marcus were already seated. They were laughing. The sound was hollow, bouncing off the mahogany walls. When I entered, the laughter died abruptly. Victoria stared at my vintage red silk dress. I could see the immediate calculation in her eyes. She was trying to price it, trying to figure out how I could afford such a piece. Red is a bit desperate. Do you not think, Elena? Victoria remarked, taking a delicate sip of her wine. It screams for attention. I walked to the only empty chair, perfectly positioned at the head of the table. It is a color of consequence, mother, I replied, my voice steady and cold. I thought tonight deserved something memorable. Marcus chuckled, adjusting his luxury watch. Well, sit down. We already ordered the appetizers. I hope you do not mind. We did not wait. I am celebrating. I sat. The waiter immediately approached and poured me a glass of sparkling water. I did not touch it. I looked directly at Marcus. What are we celebrating, Marcus? I asked softly. He leaned forward, eager to boast. Business, Elena. You would not understand the scale of it. My firm, Apex Holdings, is about to close a massive acquisition this Friday. A historic coastal property. The current owners completely mismanaged it into the ground. I am stepping in to buy it for a fraction of its true value. It is going to put me in the 9-figure net worth club. Chloe smiled proudly, resting her hand on his arm. My husband has a brilliant mind for distressed assets. I let the silence hang in the air for exactly 4 seconds. I looked at Marcus. I looked at his trembling left hand. Is that before or after you paid the city inspector $50,000 to fail the structural integrity test? I asked. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Marcus froze. The arrogant smirk vanished from his face, replaced by a sudden, terrifying pallor. What did you just say? Marcus stammered, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. I asked about the bribe. Marcus, I said, my tone as casual as if I were asking about the weather. The $50,000 wired from your offshore account to the inspector's brother-in-law. The test is scheduled for Monday. The failure would crash the property value, allowing Apex Holdings to swoop in. It is a very classic, very illegal maneuver. If you are loving this systematic dismantling of a toxic narcissist, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments if you would have waited this long to expose them or if you would have ruined them on day 1. Now, let us finish the dinner. Victoria slammed her hand on the table, rattling the crystal glasses. Elena, what is wrong with you? How dare you make up such disgusting lies about your brother-in-law? Have you lost your mind? I have never been clearer, Mother, I replied. I opened my clutch purse. I took out the first document and slid it across the polished wood table. It stopped right in front of Marcus. He hesitated, then opened the folder. His eyes scanned the forensic accounting report. I watched the exact moment his soul left his body. He saw his bank statements, his encrypted emails, and the undeniable proof of his impending bankruptcy. $7 million in debt, exposed. You hacked me, Marcus breathed, looking at me with pure terror. You are a cyber criminal. I am a security consultant, I corrected him, and you left your digital front door wide open. Before Victoria could scream for the manager, the heavy oak doors opened. The general manager of the Sterling Hotel walked in, accompanied by the head sommelier carrying a bottle of vintage wine. Victoria immediately turned her anger toward the manager. William, thank God you are here. My daughter is having a psychological episode. I need her removed from this room immediately. Call security. William, the manager, did not look at Victoria. He did not look at Marcus or Chloe. He walked straight to the head of the table. He stood beside my chair and bowed his head slightly. Good evening, Miss Vanguard, William said respectfully. The chef has prepared the tasting menu exactly to your specifications. And I brought the vintage estate wine from the private cellar, as you requested. Victoria blinked. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Chloe looked from the manager to me, her perfectly manicured hands shaking. William, Victoria finally gasped. What are you doing? I am the VIP here. Why are you talking to her? William stood up straight, his face an impenetrable mask of professionalism. Ma'am, Miss Elena Vanguard is the sole owner of the Sterling Hotel. She is my employer. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the beautiful, suffocating silence of total defeat. Victoria's face drained of all color. She looked like she was going to faint. I slid the second document across the table. This one was for my mother. Those are your deleted text messages to grandfather, Victoria, I said, my voice cutting through the quiet room like a scalpel. Every lie you told him about me, every attempt to have me disinherited, he kept them. He gave them to me. She stared at the pages, her chest heaving. The illusion of her perfect family was shattering into a million sharp pieces on the dining room floor, but I was not finished. I turned to my perfect sister, Chloe. She was crying now, tears ruining her designer makeup. She thought she was just a bystander in this crossfire. She was wrong. I pulled out the third folder. The silver flash drive was clipped to the front page. I pushed it slowly toward Chloe. You think Marcus is just a criminal, Chloe, I whispered, leaning forward so she could hear every single syllable. You think he just ruined his own life. Open the folder, sister. Look at whose signature he forged to secure that $7 million loan from the New York syndicate. Chloe looked down at the folder. Her hands were shaking violently as she lifted the cover. Marcus lunged across the table to grab the papers. Do not look at it, Chloe, he screamed. But it was too late. She saw it. Chloe stared at the document. Her perfectly manicured finger traced the ink on the page. It was a loan agreement with a notorious New York private equity syndicate. The amount was $7 million. And right at the bottom, next to Marcus's signature, was hers, as a primary guarantor. I did not sign this, Chloe whispered. Her voice was trembling, barely audible over the sound of the ocean waves crashing against the windows. She looked up at Marcus. Marcus, I did not sign this. Marcus was sweating profusely. His expensive cologne could not mask the sudden, sharp scent of his fear. He reached across the table, trying to snatch the folder. Chloe, do not listen to her. It is a fake. She fabricated it to tear us apart. It was just a temporary bridge loan. I had it completely under control. A bridge loan to nowhere, I interrupted, my voice calm, anchoring the chaos in the room. You forged your wife's signature because your credit was completely destroyed. You put up your marital home, her trust fund, and her personal assets as collateral. If Apex Holdings defaults, the syndicate does not just take your company, Marcus. They take everything Chloe owns. They leave her with absolutely nothing. Chloe dropped the paper as if it were burning her skin. She pushed her chair back, gasping for air. The golden child, the perfect sister, finally realizing she was married to a parasite. How could you? Chloe screamed at him, her carefully constructed composure completely shattered. You told me we were buying a villa in Tuscany next month? We are, Marcus yelled back, his facade crumbling into pathetic desperation. He turned to me, his face twisted in rage. You little psychopath. You think you can just print some papers and ruin my life? I will sue you for everything you have. I will destroy you. I leaned back in my chair. I picked up my glass of sparkling water and took a slow, deliberate sip. I let him yell. I let him exhaust his empty threats. You cannot sue me, Marcus, I said softly, because lawsuits require capital. And as of 9 o'clock this morning, you have exactly $142 in your primary checking account. Marcus froze. His jaw tightened. I smiled. A genuine, chilling smile. You see, Marcus, when I saw the debt you owed the New York syndicate, I realized they were getting impatient. They wanted their $7 million back. So, My cybersecurity firm's parent company reached out to them. We offered to buy your debt portfolio for 80 cents on the dollar. They happily accepted. The room went dead silent. Even William, the hotel manager standing by the door, held his breath. I own your debt, Marcus, I stated clearly, letting the reality crush the air out of his lungs. I am your sole creditor. I own the mortgage on your house. I own the liens on your cars. I own your fraudulent holding company. You do not belong to the New York Syndicate anymore. You belong to me. Marcus collapsed back into his chair. The blood drained entirely from his face. He was a dead man breathing. Victoria watched the destruction of her favorite son-in-law. She realized the power dynamic in the room had irreversibly shifted. The daughter she had relentlessly abused and mocked for 32 years was now holding a financial guillotine over all their heads. Like a true narcissist, while Victoria instantly changed her tactics. She tried to play the victim. She tried to play the mother. She stood up, her eyes filling with forced tears. "Elena, please," she begged, her voice trembling with manufactured emotion. "This has gone too far. We are family. Blood is thicker than water. Whatever misunderstandings we have had in the past, we can fix them. We can handle this privately. You do not have to do this." I looked at the woman who had brought me into the world, the woman who had systematically tried to erase my existence. "Blood is thicker than water, Mother?" I echoed. "Is that what you thought when you told Grandfather I needed to be institutionalized? Was it family loyalty when you canceled my premium spa appointment this afternoon just to remind me I was worthless?" Victoria flinched, stepping back. "There is no we anymore, Victoria," I said coldly. "Grandfather left the hotel to me. But that is not the only thing he left me. William, please bring my mother the final envelope." The manager stepped forward, handing Victoria a thick ivory envelope sealed with my grandfather's signet ring. Victoria took it with shaking hands. She tore it open and pulled out a single sheet of heavy parchment paper. "Grandfather knew you would drain the family estate to maintain your luxurious lifestyle," I explained, watching her eyes scan the legal document. "So he placed your monthly allowance, your trust fund, and the deed to your coastal mansion into a secondary trust, a trust that requires the signature of the primary executor to release any funds." Victoria looked up at me, her eyes wide with a horrific realization. "No, he would not do that. He would never give you that kind of power over me." "I am the executor, Mother," I whispered. "Your entire financial existence now requires my signature. Every designer dress, every first-class flight, every drop of vintage wine you drink, you have to ask me for it. And my answer, for the rest of your natural life, is going to be no." Victoria let out a guttural sob, dropping the paper. She sank into her chair, burying her face in her hands. Chloe was hyperventilating in the corner. Marcus was staring blankly at the wall, completely catatonic. I had dismantled them piece by piece, without raising my voice, without throwing a single punch. I used their own greed, their own lies, and their own arrogance to build their prisons. I stood up from the head of the table. I smoothed the skirt of my red silk dress. "Dinner is over," I announced. "You have exactly 1 hour to pack your belongings and vacate my hotel. William will escort you to the service elevator. You are no longer welcome in the main lobby." I turned to walk toward the heavy oak doors. But before I opened them, I looked back at Marcus over my shoulder. "Oh, and Marcus," I added casually, "buying your debt was just a personal hobby. The $50,000 bribe you wired to the city inspector? I did not just print that out for the family to read." Marcus slowly turned his head toward me, his eyes hollow. "I forwarded the encrypted transaction logs to the Federal Bureau of Investigation at noon," I said, checking my watch. "They have a zero-tolerance policy for municipal wire fraud. If I were you, I would not bother packing. The federal agents are already waiting for you in the lobby." The sound of distant sirens began to wail through the cold night air, cutting through the sound of the ocean. I stood on the mezzanine balcony overlooking the grand lobby of the Sterling Hotel. Below me, the crystal chandeliers cast fractured rainbows across the marble floor, but tonight, the lobby was also painted in flashing red and blue lights. I watched as 3 federal agents escorted Marcus through the glass doors. His hands were cuffed behind his back. His custom-tailored suit was wrinkled. He was crying, a supposed titan of real estate, reduced to a weeping child in front of the very staff he had treated like garbage just hours before. Chloe followed shortly after, dragging 2 massive designer suitcases. Her mascara was running down her cheeks and leaving dark tracks on her flawless skin. She looked up at the balcony. She saw me standing there, a glass of vintage estate wine in my hand. She did not scream. She did not curse. She just lowered her head and walked out into the cold night air. Victoria was the last to leave. William, my incredibly loyal general manager, escorted her to the service elevator. The same elevator the housekeeping staff used. The same elevator she thought I deserved. She tried to maintain her aristocratic posture, but her hands were shaking violently. She was leaving behind her empire, her reputation, and her entire financial freedom. I took a sip of my wine. The vintage was excellent. It tasted like absolute, uninterrupted peace. 1 year has passed since that dinner in the Obsidian Room. Time is the ultimate judge. And it has handed down its sentences perfectly. Marcus was found guilty on 3 counts of municipal wire fraud and financial conspiracy. He is currently serving 60 months in a federal correctional facility in upstate New York. He trades his labor for 30 cents an hour in the prison cafeteria. Chloe filed for divorce the day after he was arrested. But the New York syndicate still took everything: her house, her cars, her trust fund. Today, my perfect older sister lives in a small 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs. For the first time in 34 years, she had to write a resume. She works as a receptionist at a mid-tier dental clinic. I hear she is finally learning how much a gallon of milk actually costs. And Victoria, my mother still lives in her coastal mansion, but her reality is a gilded cage. As the executor of her trust, I placed her on a strict allowance of $3,000 a month. It covers her property taxes, her basic groceries, and electricity, nothing more. There are no more private jets, no more exclusive spa days, no more country club memberships. If she wants a new designer handbag, she has to save her grocery money for 6 months. She calls me every Sunday, hoping I will soften. I never answer. As for me, I am exactly where I was always meant to be. The Sterling Hotel is thriving. Under my ownership, we completely revamped the management structure. I doubled the salaries of the housekeeping and service staff. William was promoted to Regional Director of Operations. Our revenue has increased by 40%, and we just won the National Hospitality Award for Excellence. I also made one minor architectural change. I went down to the basement level. I stood outside room 108, the room next to the industrial laundry, the room they thought would break my spirit. I did not demolish it. I repurposed it. It is now the central server room for my cybersecurity firm's local operations. The machines inside still hum endlessly, vibrating against the floorboards. But they are no longer washing dirty towels. They are encrypting data, protecting networks, and generating millions of dollars in silent, invisible revenue. I kept the old brass key to room 108. I wear it on a silver chain around my neck, a constant reminder that the lowest place they try to put you can become the very foundation of your empire. They thought I was the family failure because I was quiet. They mistook my silence for weakness. They did not understand that while they were busy talking, boasting, and demanding attention, I was listening. I was observing. I was learning the exact coordinates of their vulnerabilities. Blood does not make a family. Blood is just a biological coincidence. Respect, loyalty, and basic human decency make a family. If the people at your table refuse to serve you those 3 things, it is time to flip the table. My name is Elena Vanguard. I was the ghost of my family. Now I am their worst nightmare and the architect of my own destiny. If you are watching this and you are surrounded by people who constantly belittle your ambitions, who gaslight your reality, and who treat you like you are invisible, hear this very clearly. Do not argue with them. Do not try to prove your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Build your empire in the dark. Educate yourself. Secure your finances. Let them think they are winning. Let them get comfortable in their arrogance. And when the time is right, when you hold all the cards, do not just leave the game. End the game. If this story resonated with you, if you are ready to stop playing the victim and start playing the architect, hit the subscribe button right now. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder of their own power. Drop a comment below and tell me, what is the first move you're going to make to take your power back? Stay focused, stay silent, and I will see you in the next video.